Everyone in Texas is dead. It was too cold. They all died. That's it. I'm fine with it. Take it, Frank.
Thank you, Pat. Welcome to the Pat Oates Show, where we find out who is the piece of shit tonight, with co-host Bobby Tamburo. Tonight's guest is a comedian, host of the Noonan Show, and a Super Bowl commercial darling, Mr. Will Noonan. Welcome, Will.
Hello, Frank.
How'd he do, Will? Did he do okay?
I thought that was pretty good. I like being called a darling.
Yes, he can read what I wrote. Frank, what was the improv of explaining the show at the beginning? You've never done that.
No, I'm trying different things. Every week I'm coming up with tweaking it just a little bit to find out where our mojo is.
They get the show. It's called POS. Everyone knows it. It's a piece of shit. I don't think you need
He could see it on my face. He could see that I was confused. He's like, Will needs a quick rundown of what this show is about.
I think Frank's reminding himself what show.
That's right.
I think that's
I didn't want to say happening. That. Yes.
Because Will, if you don't know, Frank is 79 years old. He looks very handsome for it, but Frank, in this time of life, Frank should be dead. COVID should have killed him.
That's right.
I was gonna say, let's get this guy vaccinated. Have you got your vaccine yet? Oh, there you go.
I've had my 2 shots, and the 23rd next week, I am free to go out.
Fucking
you gotta get one of those hug tents. You seen those things?
Oh yeah.
When old people can hold each other now.
Through a thin layer of plastic.
There's a woman in Colorado who that's the only way she hugs her husband who has dementia. It's like, you know what? Just hug him regular style. He's not gonna remember. He's gonna die. It's not like what are you holding on to?
That's how I want to hug old people for the rest of my life. Like what, COVID or no COVID.
I want to hug everyone that way. I think it's the safest. Let's have sex through it. I don't care. Let's just hug tent is the perfect way to go.
I hugged a guy one time, kind of a local celebrity around here, and I gave him like one of those bro hugs, and he had his hair gel and makeup on my shirt after, like in a pattern.
Yeah, but was he famous enough that you could go, this is so and so's face pattern?
Not really.
No, that's not worth it then.
I'm trying to like get. He's like more famous than me, but like less famous than like Charlie Moore from Charlie Moore Outdoors. So like think about that. That's like a really small window.
Yeah, but it's still in the area you were in. You could say it's basically like seeing Jesus on a tortilla. It was worth it.
Oh yeah,
for a second.
It was cool. It was. I just love catching guys wearing makeup at any time. Like, I mean, that's not a film shoot, like or show or something. Like, I went to a bar in LA one time, and I went into the bathroom, and there were like dudes just putting makeup on in the mirror, like, you know, like chicks do.
Yeah. But now new humans that are like 20 years old or so, they can just do whatever they want. Well, I don't know if you know that they can be whatever the fuck they want to be.
I know. And
if I was maybe,
I know, I
push that all day.
No, I've been telling this true story. I had a trans person call me weird for not liking Indian food.
That's gotta hurt the soul. What a weird decision to make.
I had to just take it too. I was like, "Yeah, I'm the weird one in this."
Yes, man, lady, sir, ma'am. You're right. I don't like.
So funny.
You don't like your own cock. It's weird. We're just.
It was like she was a real jerk about it. I was like, all right, like, okay, let it go. You know, like I don't like spicy food. I'm sorry. You know.
Well, but it's like, why couldn't you just say, well, inside me is someone who hates Indians. It's not my fault.
I just said that. I was like, I don't like spicy food. I was born this way. I can't help the fact that I don't like spicy food.
I was told I should love it, but I'm sorry, I didn't. My parents.
But I don't. I need to live my truth.
Yes. And when I was 12, I realized that I needed to be a different sex because at 12, my mind is clear and I've got this. It's all good.
To be fair, though, I knew I didn't like spicy food at 12.
Yeah, I've always that weird. I've always wanted to like spicy food, but I can't handle it because I'm Irish. So it's like I eat it, everything hurts. But for a second, I'm like, I know I would like this, but my body was rejecting it.
I'm the same way. I mean, it's just my makeup. It's not like I have something against it. it's not that it tastes bad even. It's just that like it fucks me up. You know, I get hot and sweaty and my face turns red.
Frank's the same way with gay sex. Everything you explained is just like something inside him just won't let it happen.
It's funny, like you know, my brother's gay. I have like 7,000 jokes about it. And he always talks about how like these certain events come through Boston and like the amount of closeted gays will just go up by like 1 trillion. And it's always when it's like a religious or political event, you know?
Oh, God,
and then the gay apps are just like flush.
It's the perfect market to get in if you want to get people on your, just say like, go gays. And you're like, yeah, I've got 1 million people. Then you can't make any other jokes. It's like you're destroyed the second you do.
Yeah.
But you've got the perfect, I have a black friend when I have a gay brother. You and Brian Bowden both have that wonderful thing to go to where it's just like,
yeah. And I think it's kind of like, race jokes too. It's like, if you're not a homophobe people can tell. And if you're not racist, like people can tell. But if you are a homophobe and you're doing homophobic jokes, it's like, it puts people off. But I've always been such a lover of the gays, both physically and mentally, that they've always known.
They are
now Frank's interested.
They can laugh at themselves all day. I love them as an
No, it's so true. Like the only people who have ever been offended by my gay material are like straight white women, and occasionally men. But like I've been asked to do the bit specifically at like gay, you know, birthday parties, fundraisers, whatever. And it's like, please tell that joke about your family, like, you know, thinking everyone's gay. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like that whole thing of like white chicks fighting for everybody all the time.
I've always said that my two favorite audience members are overweight black women and gay men, because they've taken so much shit in life that they don't give a fuck and they'll laugh at anything. But black men and lesbian women are very tough audiences. It's like the other side doesn't work there. They're very focused.
A lesbian couple is a tough like couple in the front row. Now that you mention that, I haven't thought about that in a while, but like, yeah, like a lesbian couple in the front row, it's tough to get. It's just kind of like a couple where the dude in the couple is like too cool for the comedy club and like doesn't want to laugh at your jokes. Like that's usually the dynamic. Like one of the women you can get, and the other one will be like, what do you like? Why are you laughing at this man?
It's almost like there's sex where it's just what you're saying doesn't penetrate. You know,
well, yeah.
I did that. That's what I did.
And then I'm scissoring my act up after backstage.
And then they just clam up. You know what I mean? They don't get it at all.
It's kind of the same thing as like when an attractive woman is on a date with a guy, the guy hates it if you're killing. And it's kind of the same way with any lesbian couple. She could be like a 48-year-old like dog trainer, and her girlfriend will still get a little bit jealous if she's laughing at the comedian.
Bobby, you have gays in Pennsylvania?
Not where I perform.
Yeah,
like they don't allow it.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, baby.
Frank, you remember when the gays weren't a thing? That was new in your times, right? Like,
well, I was
the first time you knew of a gay. Like
the first time I was exposed to a gay person was probably 70 years ago. I had a relative that was gay. I had. Well, he was old.
Get out of the family.
Then we sent him to this camp, and they prayed a bunch, and now we don't.
I just had a lot of questions to my mother about it. You know, and it filtered true. I kind of figured it out. I didn't know exactly what it meant though when I was in my, 7, 8 years old.
Yeah, when I was a kid, my mom used to bring us to Block Island every year. And one year in the summer, a guy walked up the stairs from the beach, and he had this tiniest Speedo. I was a kid, and he had 2 sparklers in his hands, and he was holding another man's hand. And I said to my mom, "What's that?" And she goes, "That's French." That's gay to me. And I'm like, oh, the French.
Funny.
But I didn't hate the French after, so it worked out. It's fine. I didn't end up hating anyone, but it is her way of explaining gay. That's what French.
Yeah.
So. That's kind of funny. My grandmother used. It is French too. That's what's great about it.
Very French.
I've been to France. It's like they're very fluid over there, man.
Yeah.
That's funny. Frank used to describe them as separate but equal.
It's like ladies that can't get pregnant. That's what they are. One of those. All right. First topic here. Indianapolis Museum apologizes for white art job listing. The Indianapolis Museum for Arts in Newfields has apologized for a job listing seeking a new director who would maintain the museum's traditional core white art audience. The wording was a bullet point in a 6-page job description and also said the museum was working to attract a more diverse audience. However, museum officials removed the word white over the weekend following outrage, including from guest curators of an exhibit of a Black Lives Matter mural in Indianapolis. Museum's director and chief executive, Charles Venable, said the decision to use white has been intentional to show the museum wouldn't abandon its existing audience as it works for more diversity. I think the fact that you can read that one sentence and now reading as a single sentence or a clause, I certainly can understand and regret that it could be taken that way. It certainly was not the intent at all. Who's the piece of shit in this story? They ended up taking it down. They're not even going to call. It's not like they have an area in the museum called white art, but in the description of that, they were looking for that. If you're allowed to have a Black Lives Matter movement, why can't you have a white art? I understand that saying that word by as a white person is deadly, but can we just look at words for a second? Is the piece of shit the museum for first posting that? Is the piece of shit the people that said, hey,
Stop it.
you can't do that because that hurts our feelings in this year. You can't have white art, but we can have Native American this and we can have that. It is art by white people. I know we've never called it that before, but that's exactly what it is. Maybe it's Anglo-Saxon, whatever you want to call it differently. Why is it okay to say one color but not say another? Is it movements like BLM who jump on everything? We get it. You got exposure. You're like a comic who's got an album coming out. We get it. You're on every fucking podcast. You have an album. We know Chad Zumach. It's great. Fine. Shut the fuck up. But anyway, why do they have to keep promoting and pushing their thing in that? The more things you jump after, the less people think you're actually caring about your cause and more caring about just getting your fucking name, like your Coke and Pepsi. Why are you advertising? We know you're Coke and Pepsi. Calm the fuck down for a while. Or is it the museum again for cowering down? Or is it anyone that's still going to a fucking museum during COVID? Why are you if you have COVID and you could barely get people in your stupid building, why are you putting up anything that could divide any? I would just say, come on in. We have masks that have pictures of Mona Lisa on them. And you can keep them for free. Who's the piece of shit? Bobby, go first.
I'm not sure his exact name, but I'm going to guess it's Muhammad. The one black person in this town in Indiana who complained. Like, clearly the museum's like, we know our demographic here. We want to keep it kind of like that. And he was like, wait a second. So I'm going to say the guy who made a ruckus and got them to change it is the piece of shit in this story.
Who's reading the fucking ad in the paper about museums anyway? He's like, how boring. Who's reading the paper at this time in there? But like, believe me, Bobby, you're wrong. I guess you don't know, like Dale Davis and all the Davises that ever played for the Pacers, they're all black, and I think they still live there. But I don't think they like white art. Oh, they do. It's called Larry Bird. That's the best white art there is. But why would you even care? Like, if I saw that, I would have just glossed by it because it sounds boring. Nothing sounds more boring than white art. It's if you tell me African American art, I go, oh, it's gonna have fancy colors and cool things. It sounds fun. It doesn't even sound like offensive. It just sounds like, I wouldn't stare at that. Like Andy Warhol is white art. That's stupid. It's so overrated. It's like Carrot Top for art people. It's not a thing. Will, who's the piece of shit in this story?
I think I'm going to go with the museum as the piece of shit because the white part goes without saying. You know, when you're an art museum in Indiana, you don't have to specify the whiteness of like what you're looking for. But also, I was gonna say, every time I've been to a museum and there's something that's not white, it's always that's specified. You know, like sometimes even the whole name of the museum will be like the African American Art Museum or
right.
Or like the Eskimo, like, you know, art museum.
I want that.
That's a good one.
Eskimo arts?
It's only open, you know, winters.
It's the Eskimo Museum. It's all beautiful.
Yeah, summertime sucks, man. It's just a soggy parking lot. But in the winter, Eskimo Museum. But yeah, I actually I can somewhat relate with whoever wrote this because I was wondering if it's an art term because I was on a conference call like with some writers and I said black comedy, which is like a term, you know, like dark comedy, black comedy. Like, I mean, I think that goes all the way back to like Shakespeare. And it like caused a ruckus on this conference call. Like, what are you talking about, man? Like, do you mean comedies with black people in them? And I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
I mean comedies where white guys do coke and like stab each other. You know what I mean? That's a black comedy.
Yeah, I meant dark comedy. You know, like the alleys that black people live in. That's what I meant.
But it was like one of those things where for like a solid like minute and 30 seconds, I was like, is my career over? Like, was that all it took? Because it feels like I'm about to fucking get in big trouble here. And I had to like really explain myself. And I'm screenshotting like the definition of black comedy on Wikipedia and like sending it to the group chat. So part of me feels a little bit bad for them, but not really. I think they're pieces of shit for just shooting themselves in the foot, basically.
Like the people you were talking to and the people that are reading this article, those are the kind of people that aren't listening to anyone talk or what they say. They are looking for danger words to jump on. If you're reading a thing about a museum and you're seeing all the things in there, who gives a fuck if it said white art in a bullet point thing? You're staring at that and hoping to find problems. That's exactly what you're looking for. It doesn't fucking matter. It is
kind of funny.
You were saying, like, if you went to go to dance class and they would, here's what we offer. We offer African-American dance. They don't say white country line dancing, but you know what the fuck it is.
That is white
why
art.
Why would you say that? Because that's what the fuck it is. It's like, you could have Irish, you could have, like Michael Flatley, Lord of the Dance dancing. We know that's for white people too. But if you said that for white people, you're not, but we can make the joke, oh, that's some white people shit, and that's okay. But if I said that's some black people shit, I wouldn't ever get to be on a podcast again. But people do different shit. White people go to the museum to pretend like they're learning about black people and Eskimos and Chinese. They're really not. They're just going there because they look nice when they donate, they get a sticker or whatever. It says, oh, look at me, I went to a museum. Yeah, we're looking.
I'm always showing that. I'm going to the bar right after. Check out my museum.
Yeah, it's like when you vote. It's like, you know what I mean? You have the sticker on. Look at me, I voted. Now blow me. Yeah, and voting's also a white people thing. White men, women. Can they vote? I'm not sure. Frank, who's the piece of shit in this story?
I mean, I find this unbelievable. I mean, white. When you talk about white in a museum, that's an assumption to begin with. Number one. Number two. Whoever wrote that line is the piece of shit, and the museum for posting that piece of shit. I mean, it was. I mean, you just assume that. I mean, you never go. I never heard of going to a museum. Hey, this week they got. They're focusing on white artists, white painters. Never heard that before. It's an assumption. Then you throw in whoever else is being featured.
Now,
where they be black artists, maybe Puerto Rican artists, maybe Chinese artists. I mean, you just assume they're white.
Art's called graffiti, Frank. It's not you can't put it inside. It's on the outside of the building. So,
how about American artists? How about human artists, man? Just humans, bro.
American means indigenous people. Will, that's not white.
But wouldn't the assumption that all white is art? All art is white art be racist in it's of itself? So like, couldn't they be like, no, we were just trying to be woke and be like, no, this is white people art. That's what we got here.
that would be a funny take. Like, no, we're saying all art is white because we invented art.
Yeah, exactly. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of the stance you take if you go, oh, no, we just assume that, right?
They invented dance. We invented art. It's clear. We both know. Okay, let them have theirs. We have art. We made white people.
The museum
brought them over and said,
now
draw. That's us starting it. You know what I mean?
Like, I want to go to the Museum of White Art. It's just like it's just like hotel paintings. You know what I mean? Like pastels.
It's a picture of building
ornaments.
Towers with cars like mashed slightly printed on front of it, and you're like, I'm pretty sure you guys just messed up this print and hung it up on the wall.
Yeah. You walk out, you're like, you know what? I felt next to nothing, and that's what I like to feel.
What if the person that was writing this? Think about it. What if they were like, you know who comes out to things? People that love Trump. And I'm not saying everyone does, but there's a good amount of people that love Trump that love being white. They're big fans of it. So maybe they were like, let's take that shot, because those people a lot of times have money. They're spending it for Trump campaigns. We need money. We're a fucking museum. We're failing. Let's take this chance. And I'm sure some people are like, don't do it. Like,
that's a dumb take.
White art. Maybe Trump will come. He's got time now. He can show up. Maybe that can help us. Maybe that was the angle. Maybe they were like, if we keep saying,
they were like,
guess who keeps showing up? African Americans. And we're,
they were like,
and they're stealing all our pots or whatever.
we were watching the news. They were like, these people are so interested in history. You know, look at them. They're stampeding into a historical building. What are they going to do when they see art? These people
I can't wait for the January 6th reflective area where you're in there and just listening to a tape of AOC talk about her Vietnam flashbacks, hiding under a fucking desk. Which by the way, like it up anyway. But anyway, so
you can put some skull between your fingers. It's like this is what they were chewing as they went in there.
Here's the actual paint that man used when he stood there and smiled on his face. He was gonna go to a Buffalo Bills game, but instead he invaded this. It's like,
they put zip ties on you. They're like, let's see what it feels like. Doesn't feel good, does it?
You know who the piece of shit is? The people that wrote this article, because you fell for a fucking trap. The museum wanted this. No one's talking about a museum. They knew. They're not dumb. Who runs museums? Smart people. They do. They're smart people that wouldn't listen. They're so pretentious. They won't take a real job. So they want to pretend like they're Indiana Jones and they find things all over the place and put it in a building. But at the end of the day, they know right now people aren't going to museums, right? With all this stuff going on, how do we get anyone to talk about us? You say something fucked up. Now, you know, you're not going to cancel a museum. That's not a thing that's going to fucking happen. So what you do is you say this. Guess who's going to go now? People are like, what the fuck is white art? I want to yell at it. I'm mad at it. I'm a young kid and I'm going to go. And it's not going to be anything bad. It's going to be it's just going to be regular shit art, but they got you, motherfucker. You went to the museum. This is brilliant on their part. I would do that too. I'd be like, look at our new section. It's all about Chinese art. It's called I've Got a Chink in My Armor. And they're like, holy shit, you can't call it that. Like, come see it. And it's just armor from olden times with chinks in it. It has nothing to do with the actual slur, but I got you into my goddamn museum. It's a brilliant move by them so that anyone that jumped on this, BLM, all that, they're the piece of shit because they bought into a fucking beautiful prank or scam that this place pulled off to get people to talk about their stupid museum. I would never talk about a museum on a podcast, and we just did for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I'd like to say for the record, if the FBI is listening, that was Pat Oates, not Will Noonan.
By the way, I say chink in my armor in my act. I was doing a show with Mark Norman once, and I went up and said that, and I also said it's also a slippery slope like that, and then I got no reaction, and I walked off, and Mark just goes, I've traveled all over the country, and they don't know slope. They don't know slope.
I've been trying to get some jokes. I'm doing a thing up here for St. Patrick's Day. It's like about some local stuff, and I'm not writing it all by myself. So I got some comedians to help write with me. And I was like, you know, it's got to be pretty tame because it's for like politicians and shit. And the amount of like Asian jokes in there, I'm like, are Asians? Do you guys not think like this counts? I'm like, I can't say these fucking jokes. Like
they don't count now. That's what we got out of this. It's okay. It's not punching down because they're small. They have to punch up.
I noticed that. I was like, why are multiple dudes all thinking the same exact thing? Like, all right, Asians, though, we can make fun of Asian people. I'm like, no, we can't.
Well, just the Chinese. Not all. That's who we can go after. They brought us this pandemic, which they really didn't, but we blame them. So, yeah, now we can. They're the people we can make fun of now.
I think you're onto something, though, because the term Asian is like, I mean, how many billions of people does that include? So it's almost so vast. You're not really making fun of anyone, you know, you're making fun of such a large group of people.
You're fun of more than half the world. And then half the people, when you say, well, I wasn't saying that, I said Indians. I'm like, oh, you don't know geography. That's cool.
It includes Russians. Russian people are Asian, you know, Siberians and such.
There's so many.
So I take it back.
I mean, the United States has a lot of Asians. I mean, you know, Chinatown.
How many? There's more than one Chinatown, Frank. How don't you know that?
Well, that sells my point.
Think any town where there's a Chinese person is now Chinatown. I think that's that's fair. They show up, it's Chinatown.
I feel like we strayed away from the important point here, and that is, Will, do I just forward you my Stewart packet, or how do I get on the joke writing team?
Oh man, some of your Stewart packet. You know,
I'll take out all the Asian jokes.
You want to write local jokes about Boston politicians.
Well, I can't wait till whenever this thing comes out that Will opens with chink in my armor, and I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm like,
look at this. What am I, Ted Alexandra, when you're at SNL? What the fuck just happened here? Thanks for stealing my.
I tried to make a joke last year on the same thing about coronavirus in China, and they were like, no.
Too soon.
Like, yeah, and that was last year. So
You know what? A year ago at this time, you and I were on a show together for a radio station, and they can't do that show again because of everything going on. And there was
that was right before.
There was
everything.
like 400 people packed into a place that shouldn't have held 400 people, and they were white trash. I mean, they were nice people, but those people were all trash. They definitely, if we didn't get the disease then, we're never getting it.
I know. Actually, I'd seen Bobby that day too, because I came right from Cumia. I did Cumia and then like drove up to Connecticut.
And we did our jokes, and then we watched Lamont tell a sea of white people that he was black, and they were like, wow, we've never seen one in public. It was pretty cool.
And me and Lamont drove back together. Like, I haven't seen Lamont this whole time. He hasn't left the house.
No, he's just on Twitter begging porn stars to like him.
Yeah. I remember once. The only time a porn star ever replied to me on Twitter was when I said something like, my life is so pathetic, I'm now talking to porn stars on Twitter. And then one of them liked it as if to say, like, maybe go on and like live your life.
Right. Yeah, I've been on Chrissy Mayr's show, The Wet Spot, so now I've met porn stars. Then they're just people that fuck more. That's all.
Yeah, it's like meeting. It's worse than meeting a famous comedian and being let down because I don't know. I've met some porn stars too, and you look at them in person and they look kind of haggard and.
Yeah, when you catch them without the makeup on.
Even when they still look pretty, once I meet you, I can't jerk off to you.
That's actually, I'm the opposite. Once I meet you, I have to do it at least once.
It ruins the illusion. It does. I don't like it. Never meet your heroes. You know. It's like...
But it can be like that. I met a porn star once on like a show, and she had really bad breath, and it really like I could never look at her again and not think about it.
I wonder why she had bad breath. Will,
I know, right? I wonder what cock and cocaine drip does to a person's breath.
Yeah, that's gotta be worse than cigarette. I'm shocked they don't have that little cancer kazoo thing. Like, just you can put a dick in it. Yeah,
they probably do.
Turns out the cure for cancer is just cock, semen, and a little cocaine.
A little coke. That would be the funniest thing. Like, it's coke. That's the missing piece. So many people have been doing tons of cock and tons of cum, but it's the coke we miss. Eureka!
Did you get your coke in my cum?
Porn is really just an experiment by scientists to find out a cure for cancer. Like, that's what we're doing. We took porn. We tricked these people. We're just trying to figure out the cure for cancer. How do we do this? Less anal, more coke? What's going on here?
The cure for cancer, we ran out of ideas. So we eventually just started mixing cum with things. And once we mixed cum and cocaine together, we found the cure.
I like that if that worked, we think the person's brilliant, but there's a scientist who just keeps mixing cum with it. Like, dude, we get your hypothesis, but if you can chill with the cum, he's like, it's going to work with something.
He just found a way to get government grants to beat off, which I support.
Yes, that's it. Well, if stem cells work, then why don't we go to the source? You know what I mean? Why are we fucking around with that? Let's just go with the cum.
One time I got really dehydrated and beat off. I'd never recommend that to anybody. See?
Bobby got offended by this cum talk.
I saw that. I saw Bobby pop off.
Bobby went to go make some fucking vaccine.
He either got offended or he got
saying,
so
what am
hard,
I missing? And he just disappeared.
Bobby went to go check in on his favorite porn star. What's your breath like tonight? I got a hotel room.
He either got offended or he got so horny that he just had to sign off for a little while.
Yeah, I met Will in person. I had to rub one out quick.
That's what we said. Bobby was going to make the cure. What if I mix cum with more cum? That could
Turns out cum and weed, not the cure, guys. We'll try.
That's a weird move. It's a good way for a nap. You just get high, then jerk off, and maybe a little bit of melatonin, and you're sleeping. You're done.
Oh, such an instant. You could have a pot of coffee and smoke weed and jerk off and still take a nap. Like,
yeah.
Well, speaking of porn and weirdness, singing in German increases the risk of COVID-19, a study says. Singing in a choir can be deadly in the age of the coronavirus, but warbling together in consistent, heavy German accent is especially dangerous, new studies out of Japan have found. It's far better, actually, to sing in Japanese, the studies found, because the language's softer consonants do not propel droplets nearly as far. When singing in German, we advise our members to stand at the maximum distance from each other, advised Japan Choral Association Secretary General, which I like, he's in the military, but also in the choir, Masazaku Umida. CBS News reported. Singing is already known to spew about 3 times as much respiratory particles into the air as regular talking does. But 3 new Japanese studies found that some languages emit significantly more particles. In one study, I got an ad for Hellman's mayonnaise, which is weird right in the middle of that. In one study, a four-woman, 4-man choir sang 3 songs under laboratory conditions, a popular Japanese children's song, Beethoven's Ode to Joy, in a selection from Verdi's La Traviata. Ludwig lost in a landslide. Singing the German language classic emitted 1302 particles per minute, CBS reported. Singing the Verdi in Italian generated 1,166 particles per minute. Singing the Japanese song generated only 580 particles per minute. Basically, they keep going through there saying the Japanese is the perfect way to go. Don't sing in German. Who's the piece of shit in this story? Is it all the Japanese people that must be singing in German for some? What is this new phrase? What's happening in karaoke? Why is it a study in Japan? Out of all the things you could be studying right now and figure out the coronavirus, what was happening in the Japanese government? They're like, German singing is taking over. We need to stop this right now. If Hasselhoff becomes big again, we're fucked. We can't do this. We can't have it there. Is it a Japanese scientist / general / choir member who's leading this study, getting people and forcing them to sing songs in different languages? Yeah, if they don't know German, of course they're going to spit more. When we all fake talking Spanish, we spit more. We don't know what we're saying, so we're trying to do it harder. They go from one crazy-ass language to another one. They don't even know what they're saying. You're going to admit a bunch of crap. Is it the people that look at this study and go, that's another reason why they hate the Germans, because that's what's going to happen out of this. For some reason, Japan's trying to make you hate the Germans. Maybe it's because maybe Germans are getting more popular. I don't know if it's a destination thing or a travel thing. Maybe in the choir circuit, that's how they're traveling, and they're losing all their fucking choir people to a German tour instead of Japanese. Will, who's the piece of shit in this story?
I say that the piece of shit in this story is the Japanese scientist. Not to steal one of your points, but there are slightly bigger fish to fry right now in science than who's spitting the most. I have read stuff about this myself. Like in France, French is another language that kind of has a lot of like spitting, and they have recommended not speaking on the subway. They're like, it's just not smart. Like, I just don't know. I get it. I think it's real. I think their study I think it's funny that they use their study to flex and be Japanese and be like, by the way, our language happens to be the best and cleanest and least spitty language. Like, that's so Japanese.
Well, what about white singing? Why can't we say that?
Yeah, you know, they're saying that. Basically, they're saying that, like, white, Germanic, like, but I've hung out with a lot of German people in my day, and they do spit a lot when they talk. Yeah. They spit constantly. The language requires it almost. But you're also a stand-up, you know, like when the lights are on you, you can see how much you spit when you fucking talk. Much. It's a ton, you know. And you ever talking to a fucking comedian and like you just see it fly through the air and land on your face? And dude, right at the beginning of Corona, like when we were still doing shows and stuff, a drunk guy like spit a little beer at me and landed on my lip, and I thought about it every day for a month.
I've watched myself on stage projecting and seen a little bit, and I'm like, I'm like, sorry, like yelling out loud.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. And that's before Corona. Now, when the stages usually put a line of tape, don't cross this line or you'll kill someone. I don't think I can spit that far, but I have. I definitely have. But if I was doing my act in German, fuck yeah, I'd be spitting all and shitting on them because they love that. It's Scheisse, I think it's called.
Even that fucking, have you worn one of those things for any amount of time? Like I wore one of those plastic visors, and I wore
the welder's mask.
Yeah, I wore it for 45 minutes at this thing, and when I took it off, it was disgusting. Like I was like, oh my god, I spit all over this fucking thing.
Regular masks are gross. We sneeze in them, we burp in them, they stink. It's gross, and you're on your face the whole time. If you burp once, that's with you for the whole time you're wearing the goddamn mask.
when I was doing the road a lot, I used to smoke a lot of weed while I was in my car. And then I'd cough in the car, right. And the inside of my windshield, I would think I'd be hitting my windshield cleaner. Like, I can't get these fucking spots. Like, it's bird shit all over my windshield. I can't get it. And it was my spit on the inside, my spittle.
It was just window mouth bukkake. That's what you were just covering up.
It really was.
I think a Japanese word, by the way. I think so.
I was like, oh, there you go.
Oh, that's Japanese. Oh.
Which is funny because, you know what? We made a connection here because Germans love bukkake and they love weird sex shit, but they spread more corona while they're doing it than maybe it's the pixels. Maybe pixels stop corona. That's the whole point.
A blurry cock saves lives. It really does.
We nailed it.
Frank, who's the piece of shit?
Yeah, I'm going to have to say that the Japanese government for creating this study and then totally dropping the ball and hiring local Japanese actors, voice people to speak in German, which is totally different than having a German. They should have hired Germans and do the study. It's a crock of shit. I mean, that
good luck advertising for that.
Worth anything. It's not worth the spit on the pavement. You got to hire Germans to do it. I mean, they talk totally different. They're spewing out more different angles.
Oh, we need more Germans in study. Like, you're not showing up. You're not answering that ad.
Oh, that's it. That's a
study
that's
Germans?
That I'll tell you, that the whole
Germans are just
Japanese
afraid of
government,
roundups in general.
Yeah, they're not a fan.
But they were so good at them.
That's funny, man.
I mean, it's definitely the government for falling short. Instead of hiring the correct people to do the study with, they hired amateurs. That's all. Nice. It's that simple. The study means
I don't
nothing.
think they hired anybody. I think people were selected to be in this.
Whatever they did, it was wrong.
Bobby, who's a piece of shit?
When given the choice, it's always the German people.
Yeah.
Right. And let me tell you, I'm with you 100%, Frank, but I know what's going on here. What is the go-to insult right now for people who you don't like, who are a little bit conservative?
Nazi.
It's Nazi, who also committed a bunch of vicious crimes during World War II that doesn't want associated with any of that shit. The Japanese. So they're just trying to find another way to keep their name distance from the Nazis, even though they were teammates. They were basically the Scottie Pippen of World War II. And I think we should start including the Japanese in like these insults. Like, I see all these Twitter accounts that just show up for like 6 hours to say horrible things to liberals. We should call those suicide bombers, right?
My favorite time in history is when the Germans took 2 years off to play baseball and the Japanese just couldn't get it done, and they waited for the Germans to come back and help them out. They are the Scottie Pippen of,
that's great.
Of that thing. I enjoy that thoroughly, Bobby. The Germans are the piece of shit, but not for the reason you said. You know what, Germany? What happened to you? Years ago, you had a leader that didn't take that kind of shit. Now, I'm not saying you should bring it back, but everyone wants it back. I'm not a fan of the Nazis, but people can't stop talking about it. Everybody brings the best PR.
Jesus, what happened to you?
Yeah, Jesus, Elvis, the Nazis. People can't stop talking about them. There are people calling you out. Back in the day when the Jews got mouthy, you solved that riddle real quick. Why don't you do this? Go invade Japan. I need something to watch on TV. They're calling out your singing. Fuck, they're calling you spitters. You were called way worse before. What happened? You're bitches. Ever since you but the wall came down and we got to be nice now. You got no spine anymore, Germany. Step it up. Go fuck with Japan. They're calling out your singing game. I need German choirs. Fuck the Harlem Boys choir. I need Germans singing to me behind R. Kelly. That's a video I'll fucking watch. They're all peeing on kids. It'd be a good time.
That was quite a rant, Oates. You went right from World War II to the Berlin Wall in like 1 fucking second, man. I like that.
I have a skill that only works in white museums. Frank, do you have a story for us?
Yeah, I always have a story.
I know, Frank. That's how I pitch it. We've been
okay. Yeah, I have a story. Yeah, I got
Thanks,
something I
Frank.
can go back to.
No, Bobby
course
fakes
I
it.
do.
Goes, yeah, I got something. We know Bobby has something. Be natural.
We're going to go back to prior for me doing the big pranks on the world media. We're going to go back 50 something years ago, 50, 51 years ago, when I was working for SEM Corporation, and I was selling copying machines. And I was fortunate enough to have this job that I had 4 clients, 4 Fortune 500 clients that I would sell copying machines to. We already had the contract nationally. We had thousands of machines in all their offices. But my job was to entertain the clients. So it was a simple job, my best job that I ever had. Now, a friend of mine was coming in from out of town. I was living in Manhattan, working in Manhattan. And he says, let's have lunch. I said, when are you coming in? And immediately I said, oh, I have a luncheon with one of my clients, McKesson Robbins, a big drug distributor. And I said, you know, the purchasing agent's kind of cute. Why don't you join us for lunch? Well, we're going through these emotions. She has to sign the contract for next year, you know, for 10,000 copying machines. Why don't you come in? He goes, oh, that's great. Oh, I like to see you in action. He was in the business. He knew what I was talking about. So we meet at a restaurant and we're sitting there. I introduced the purchasing agent to him. And he starts to get into it, talking to her about copying machines and whatnot. And I'm blasé about the whole thing. I take out a 15-page contract. I throw it in front of her. I said, just sign over there. Let's get on with this. And she says, no, let me read it. And she starts reading it and she has questions and is asking me questions. I'm saying, forget about it. Just sign the goddamn contract and we'll have some fun. And so my friend's getting nervous. He's getting real nervous. And so I said, forget, sign the goddamn thing now. And he says, Frank, calm down. I said, no, she knows the deal. Sign the goddamn contract and we'll have some fun. We'll go to a bar and go bar hopping and get laid. What? She said, I've had it, storms out of there. So I thought it was going to end there. But no, my friend goes after her. And he talks her down and he brings her back and she signs the stupid contract. That's how good he was. Okay. So we leave, everything's happened except for one thing. He didn't realize that was my fiance and we were getting married in 6 months. The key to the prank is never expose yourself right away. So he comes to the wedding and he sees her as my bride. And he comes over to me. Oh my God, you married the purchasing agent. That's when you reveal the hoax.
There you go.
So that was it. So who's the piece of shit? Who's the piece of shit? Is it me for creating this wonderful prank? No.
Always.
Is it my friend for falling for it and then trying to save the day, thinking he took the train back to Connecticut, thinking that he saved the day? Until 6 months later, he finds out he was had. Or is it Nancy, who became my wife for the last 50 years? Is it her for being part of the prank?
Or for being your wife for 50 years?
For being my wife. This is something else.
We'll go first.
Man, I don't know if there is a piece of shit in this story. I like everyone in this story, but I'm going to have to go with his friend for not even realizing he was getting pranked. That's like the ultimate part of it where he was like, oh my God, you married the purchasing agent? Like, that to me makes him a bit of an asshole. So but I like that story. I like that kind of stuff, man.
That's one of Frank's nicest stories he's ever told. It's Bobby.
Frank, I want to say you're the piece of shit. And not for the reasons everybody else thinks. I think you're the piece of shit for pitching to be on our retail version of POS. We'll have you on eventually, buddy. We get it. You got good stories. But the real piece of shit's your wife. I mean, I'm not saying it was a red flag, but maybe like a burgundy flag. Hey, I want to fuck with one of my good friends. You mind joining? I'm going to come in and treat you like a piece of shit. And she was like, yeah, this seems like a good move. Let's get married still.
Yeah, but that was 50 years ago. I mean, times were different.
Back when you could make ladies do stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
And there weren't all these Nancys demanding to be on cakes.
Well, name wasn't even Nancy. That's what I called all women. Right.
What?
Your friend is the piece of shit. But not because he didn't realize it. What did he fucking say to your wife in the back? He went in back and talked her down. Talked her down, and she changed her mind. Now, he didn't know she was going to change her mind, so he went at it. Dude,
He did.
Someone might have attacked your future wife. I've been back in those days when copy salesmen were getting crazy and you were white men showing up knowing that you run the world. You went in there, your friend went back there to go give her a good talking to, and then she came back and cowered down. What the fuck did he do? That's what happened.
I'll tell you.
When he saw her, he was saying, oh my God, you married the purchasing agent. He's like, holy shit, I bitch slapped Frank's wife. That's what happened there. There's no way. Even if he didn't hit her, he definitely said some bullshit to her. Or
he was talking
Frank,
about
he got real creepy and he goes, hey, we signed these papers and you can like sign my dick later. Like he did something fucked up to her because you were gonna go party afterwards. Did you guys go all together, go out later?
No, we stayed at the bar.
She didn't come with you.
She came with us, yeah.
So she stayed in character at the bar, like she
at the bar for a couple of hours.
Yeah. This is some LARPing shit. This is way out of it. When you guys went home alone, did she still pretend to be the purchasing agent in your wacky, weird 8mm film porn that you filmed later on?
I was so drunk. I got into a cab and brought it to McKesson Roberts.
What is that?
The company that she was representing. That was the company that she was supposed to be working for.
You brought her to the fake company?
Yeah, I was drunk.
What the fuck?
That's hilarious.
That's a lot of work. These are the parts you should have kept in the story. And by the way, Bobby, finally a story where he gets the girl and she actually does want to be with him. Usually Frank always brings up a woman. She's somewhat famous and she throws herself at Frank. And Frank's like, no, I can't do it. Penny Marshall. That's always the one I bring up. He did meet Penny Marshall and yell at her or something.
Penny Marshall.
Yes, for real.
How'd you pass that one up?
Yeah.
I was dressed as an Arab. It's another story.
Yeah, I'd rather fuck Gary Marshall. Anyway. Bobby, you got anything?
Yeah. So
we'll close it out with you.
I smashed my phone at work on Thursday. A story I'm sure we'll touch on retail POS. But after work, I went over to AT&T and was like, hey, can I get the new Pixel? And they were like, let me see what I've got in the back. And the guy comes out. He's like, we've got a 5. We don't have the XL. I'm like, okay, how much more would the XL be? He's like $100. Doesn't look anything up. He's just like $100. Like, how long would it take to get it? He's like, about 3 days. I'm like, all right, I'll see if I can find an XL tomorrow. And if not, I'll be back for the 5. I go home. I'm starting to do my research. And I realize they don't make a Pixel 5 XL. They just make the 5. This guy didn't look it up. And that's where the story should end. But I went back after work the next day and found that guy and was like, hey, I'm ready to order the 5 XL. And he was like, okay, let me pull it up. And he starts looking and he's like, oh, it looks like we are completely out of stock. And I'm like, oh, like, will you be getting them in? Can you check that out? And he's like, no, like, actually, we don't make them. And I threw a world-class tantrum at this point. I'm like, what the hell? What do you think? My time's invaluable? There's a goddamn pandemic, and I'm in an AT&T store twice. You know, I may have referenced that it was a super spreader store. And then I left without buying the phone. So I just caused a scene, and bought the phone on Amazon. Who's the piece of shit? Is it me for going and causing the scene? Is it the guy, obviously, for being a piece of shit? Or is it work for making me go in and smashing my phone? We'll throw that out there since I don't have a third option. Will, what do you think?
I'm Bobby. You know I love you, but I gotta go. You're the piece of shit in this story, man. I hate to admit it, but first of all, it was funny. He was the piece of shit until you went home and Googled that the phone wasn't real, and then actually it was still really funny when you went back the next day and made him look it up. But when you threw the tantrum and took out all your intern rage on you're like, now I'm the boss and you're the intern and you gotta listen to me. That was slightly a piece of shit moment. I think it's all forgivable. Losing your phone, being an intern, these are all stressful events that cause people to lash out at innocent retail workers. But I think that guy's a level B piece of shit for like kind of going like, yeah. Because those people at those stores always want you to just fucking leave. Like,
yeah, exactly. I
like
knew
that's
what was
their
going on.
100%. Their goal is always like, please just leave and come back when I'm not here and someone else is
exactly.
here.
Let me make this someone else's problem as soon as I can.
Yeah, like please, like they'll almost close your eyes and like wish you away. Like just go.
My shift ends at 5. Tony can handle this at 5:01. Walk away.
So I love that Bobby went back and fucked with him. But it's like kind of like it's kind of like an MMA fight, Once you knock him down, you got to call the fight off. You can't continue to beat an unconscious man.
Now, Will, far am I to ever correct a guess, but I did get promoted since we last talked.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yes.
I just wanted to give you a heads up. No worries.
I know you're doing big things. Okay, first of all, I'm not. I've been a I dare say a cheerleader of Bobby's his entire.
Yes, I would say more than that. Yes,
but I'm 100% against him being paid. I just can't stand it.
But don't worry, he's only getting paid from his other day job, not the passion. So don't worry.
I want this guy, really working for those phones. He's smashing left and right and rages.
Yeah, Mister, I'm not doing well. Hotel rooms, phones whenever he wants. I think we're doing okay.
Coke, mixing Coke with his jizz, like he's a fucking
taking time off your co-host show to jerk off in the middle of the show. Yeah, it's fine.
He's living the New York dream over there, Studio 54. But congratulations. That's all kidding aside, Bobby. Congratulations.
Thanks, buddy.
Bobby, kick it to the next person.
Let's go to Frank. Frank.
All right, Bobby. Everything that Will said applies here. Plus, you picked on somebody to do a prank or whatever you want to call it with a low-life individual, someone that's barely surviving out there. You got to shoot higher. You go up. You don't go down. You go to a supervisor. You don't go to somebody like that. I mean, just for that, you're the piece of shit. Plus, I'm throwing one other reason why you're the piece of shit. For the last fucking 12 weeks, you said that I was the piece of shit of my story. So I'm just getting even. I'm not getting mad. I'm just getting even, piece of shit. Back to you, Bobby.
I was pissed.
That was good.
Bobby.
That was like a wrestling promo.
You're the piece of shit, but not for any of those other reasons. Frank, you must be upset for one more reason that is. Perfect opportunity to pull a prank. Why did you go back to the fucking store? You could have called up and you could have called them and ordered 50 of those phones. You could have watched this guy try to sell you a thing. If you order one, they don't, oh, sorry, we're out of stock. He's going to put it on hold and try to figure out a way to get you to buy a phone that's not that. And then you get him to the point where you're about to order all these things, and then you let him know, oh, we're just doing it. We don't have those. And then you go off on the guy and ruin his whole day on the phone. Going back in, they now know your face. You can't go back to the fucking phone store that you want to go to because you went there and you were a Karen. That's exactly what you fucking were. You went in there and said, let me let you know something, mister. In this time and age, you're a super spreader. Like, dude, you were such a fucking white woman in that scenario. It was ridiculous. You could have just called on the phone and yelled at them from your fucking hotel room. And even if you didn't prank them, you could have just gone off and not had to go back. You weren't getting a phone. You did your research. Listen, you've worked retail. We talk about it on the show that we have. I would have said the same thing. My boss says, when someone says, have you ever used this mattress? I'll be like, oh, yeah, I have one at home. I don't fucking have one at home. But you say that shit so you can sell it to them. Yeah, I'm telling you I have the 5X. I'll tell you I have the Malcolm X. I don't give a fuck what I'm telling you I have. I'm trying to get you, some dumb guy, to come in and buy it. They'll give you a phone. You'll go home. You think your pictures are a little bit better, and you're mad about it, but you keep the phone till the next year. Of course he lied to you because he knew you'd come back because we're all fucking addicted to phones, and he'd sell you something at some point. And that's all he was trying to do. But you going back in and doing your I am woman, hear me roar bullshit, nothing more than make that guy have a story that hopefully you go call him and book him for our next retail show. I want to talk to him about the white woman man that came in and yelled at him.
It must have really confused the guy. He was like, who is this white man with a Muslim beard and a white woman's personality screaming at me? Right?
Who is this crab boat captain to come in and yell at me about his phone? Will,
Like, I
thank you
hate
so
New
much
York.
for coming on the show. Please tell people where they can follow you, where they can see you, all that fun stuff.
Oh, dude. Thank you. This was a lot of fun, I must say. Honest to God, I had a great time. Frank, it's great to meet you as well.
Same here, Will.
I'm easy to find. Will Noonan on Twitter and willnoonan.com, and check out the Noonan Show if you got a few minutes. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the Noonan Show. We're also a podcast, but yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. I'd love to come back soon if you'll have me.
Always will, man. You're always welcome. Bobby, what do you got? You have things.
Yeah, check out the Eastside Dave Show every Tuesday at 7:30. This weekend, I'll be in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. So if you think you live there, hit me up and we'll go to a secret show together. The weekend after that, I'll be at Scotty's Comedy Cove, and then I'll be in Delaware. Let me know if you want to come to any of those things. We'll work it out.
Dope.
Frank, you got stuff?
Yeah, we got something. We're finally back at Comics at Mohegan Sun.
Yes, we are.
I got 2 shows in March 4th and March 19th, 18th rather. And I'm excited to get back there. It's been a while. It's been since October. Get those comedy chops going. We got some good lineups going on. And so I'm ready. Plus, you can catch me on YouTube, Frank Mercallo, and see a lot of the stuff that I've done in the past.
Yeah, all
You
your
can check it
scary
out.
pranks and stuff. Is there one about you and your wife tricking a man that was just your friend for no reason?
No, this was just for here.
Well, just so you know, most of his pranks were because there was a way to promote things. Like, so they would do that back in the day where like someone said, I have a book to sell. So they would go there, put on this elaborate thing, put out there, but then mention the reason why they won the lotteries because I read this book. And then they would never reveal it, but it was a way people learned about the book or whatever. Frank
That's
sometimes
great.
would just do it to friends. Use his powers for evil.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's like a comedian who's funny when no one's watching. Those are the best comedians. You know
Frank,
what I
what's the
mean?
name of your
It's a lovely
documentary again
game.
about you and your buddy? So Will can check it out.
Yeah, Abel raises Cain.
Abel
Check it out.
Raises
You
Cain.
can find it around. Abel raises Cain. Alan Abel was the master of it, and I mean, he was funny, intelligent, smart. He played during World War II. He was with the Glenn Miller Orchestra as the drummer. I mean,
Wow.
he did a lot in his life.
You see the thing, they were like on Phil Donahue. They were the people that started that thing, getting the fake guests in and all that kind of stuff that people jumped
that's
on
awesome.
later on. So
I love stuff like that.
So check it out. Alan Abel is Abel Raises Cain. A great documentary. Won a lot of awards.
I absolutely will.
as Bobby force plugged a bunch of times throughout the show, yes, Bobby and I started to do a spinoff of this show called POS Retail. We have Bobby and I work retail right now. And also we have a lot of comedians and friends, funny people that aren't comedians who work retail and talk about the nightmare stories of that. Our first episode came out this week. Thank you so much. A ton of people watched it. We appreciate it. It was a really funny one. We're going to be doing them again. If you're out there and you worked retail and you got some war stories, come on. Actually, my boss now said to me, I heard you had a retail show and I thought I was going to get in trouble. And he's like, when am I going to be on it? I'm like, oh, nice. Everybody will just talk shit. So check that one out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Pat Oates YouTube channel. Hit up the Patreon. Keep supporting us there. Pat Oates Patreon. We got new things, Bobby and I, to go on there as well. We thank you guys so much for being a part of this. And Bobby. Bobby,
how is he going to close the show?
He has one line at the end of every show, and then Bobby,
he's gone. He's keeping us in suspense.
And Bobby from the background says, "And don't be a piece of shit." Thanks, Bobby.